All right, good afternoon. I'm Teresa Lundy, Communications Chair of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party. It is my pleasure to introduce the speakers on behalf of Chairman Sharif Street and Executive Director Lisa Rhodes. We're here to honor the anniversary of President Biden signing the Inflation Reduction Act into law. There has been tremendous progress in the past year with lower costs, thousands of new jobs, and investments in America's future. Today you will hear from State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, Philadelphia City Councilman Jim Harity, TJ LaPera, Political Director for IBEW Local 98, and Alan Bukovitz, former Philadelphia City Controller.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, listen, I'm always feeling like it's a bright start, but good afternoon. I will say for decades, Republicans worshipped at the throne of Reaganomics. This false, phony, failed idea that if we give all of the benefits of the American economy to the folks at the very top, that somehow, after a while, it'll trickle down to the working families that I represent, like in the 181st District. We know after a 50-plus year experiment with Reaganomics, that idea has failed. It failed the American people. What President Biden has done with the Inflation Reduction Act, what he's done as it relates to infrastructure, what he did in terms of saving the American economy, represent a much different vision for how our economy should work and who should receive the benefits from American exceptionalism. President Biden believes in Bidenomics. And the IRA is a perfect example of that actually delivering for people. We need to understand what was in this massive piece of legislation. This was first, as we sit out here in the heat, the largest investment in clean energy technology, the largest investment in making sure that we protect our environment that we have seen in the history of the world. Not just in the history of America, in the history of the world. And what has that meant, brass tacks? That has meant a lot of jobs for working class folks and for folks who are in a union, and also dealing with one of the core issues that we know we all face. What did this IRA also do? It also said that we need to do something about the hard costs that are hurting everyday Americans and Pennsylvanians. So what the president did and what Democrats did without the help of a single Republican in Congress, not one had the courage to vote for this piece of legislation. The average Medicare recipient, 1 in 3 of all Medicare recipients, we're talking about 19 million people, are going to see a savings of about $400 a year on drug costs. For folks like my mom who live with diabetes, the cost of prescription insulin is going to be capped for the first time ever at $35. Those are real savings for real people who've had too often to make a difficult choice. Am I going to take care of my kids, or am I going to make sure I have the prescriptions that I need? Because of the leadership of President Biden and Vice President Harris, folks don't have to make that choice anymore. And they're going to continue to see those reductions because now Medicare is going to be able to negotiate drug prices. Something that people talked about for years and years and years, but President Biden actually got it done. And then the final thing I want to talk about is the cooling inflation. The Inflation Reduction Act, aptly named, has led to the reduction in inflation that we are seeing right now. You don't just have to take Malcolm's word for it. If you look at consumer confidence and consumer spending, they are going up. People are taking that weekend trip to the shore. People are paying some of those bills or getting some of those repairs at home that maybe they've been putting off. Because the president has a vision of investing in working people and lifting our economy from the bottom up, as he says, and from the middle out. And that's what the Inflation Reduction Act is going to continue to do for working families. And you see here today folks from the state, in the city level, from organized labor, who see in real time how this has impacted our economy and impacted our constituents. And with that, I want to thank you again, Teresa, and turn it over to Councilman Kennedy.
Hello, everybody. As my colleague, Representative Malcolm Kenyatta has said, I am Councilman Jim Harity. I am a city councilman at large. That means I represent the whole city. And that's why I was so honored to be asked to come here and speak today, because the Inflation Reduction Act is helping everyone in the city of Philadelphia, everyone in the United States of America. This is what America's about, giving a hand up to those struggling. And, you know, the residents of Philadelphia have been struggling for a while. It's about time that somebody is doing something for the normal, everyday citizen. You know, I'm somebody that had to deal with the price of prescription drugs. I myself am a heart patient. But not only that, my mother-in-law is a diabetic who was being charged almost $400 a month for her insulin. And now, thanks to our president, who we affectionately call Joe Biden, they now are capped at $35 a vial, which may not sound much, but this is something that's going to help every senior citizen in Philadelphia. You know, as Representative Kenyatta said, you know, Reaganomics, trickle-down economics did not work. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for you. It didn't work for most of the people living in the neighborhoods in the city of Philadelphia. And now we have something new, Bidenomics, which is working. The economy is growing. People are going back to work in union jobs, jobs that they can actually raise a family on. The economy is coming back. This is what we need in Philadelphia. This is what we need in the United States. And this is why we need to return Joe Biden to the presidency of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Ladies, gentlemen, distinguished guests, and fellow citizens, today, on behalf of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 98, I stand before you to shed light on the remarkable achievements brought about by the Inflation Reduction Act, a testament to the commitment of President Biden and the Democrats to prioritize the well-being of working families. Exactly 1 year ago, President Biden and the Democratic Party took a bold stand against special interests and championed the Inflation Reduction Act, a landmark legislation aimed at lowering costs for working families across our great nation. This historic step embodies a core principle of Bidenomics, a belief that the economic growth should emanate from the bottom up and the middle out. This approach focuses on creating jobs, reducing costs, promoting green, clean energy initiatives, and ensuring that large corporations contribute their fair share in taxes. In the span of this past year, the IRA has proven itself to be a resounding success, fulfilling its promise of curbing inflation and alleviating financial burdens for working families, despite facing the opposition for every single Republican in Congress. The IRA's impact speaks volumes. Nearly 19 million Medicare beneficiaries are set to save around $400 annually. Almost 4 million seniors with diabetes under Medicare have witnessed a substantial reduction in their insulin costs. Over 13 million Americans continue to enjoy average annual savings of $800 on health insurance premiums. Families embracing clean energy and electric vehicles are benefiting from tax credits, putting over $1,000 back into their pockets each year. Making energy efficient choices is no longer just environmentally responsible, but also financially rewarding, as families save an average of $500 on their yearly energy bills. This act has not only propelled America towards the forefront of climate change and action, but has also catalyzed a manufacturing renaissance within our nation. It is significant to note that these achievements have been realized without increasing taxes for families earning less than $400,000 annually. However, our progress is at a crossroads. The looming threat of the 2024 GOP presidential hopefuls aiming to unravel the cost-saving measures of the IRA cannot be ignored. Such a reversal would be undeniably burden for millions of families with increased costs and financial challenges. To preserve the strides we've made, it is paramount that we rally behind our cause by re-electing President Biden, Vice President Harris, and the supporting Democrats down the ballot, thus ensuring the completion of this important mission. In conclusion, let us remember that the Inflation Reduction Act stands as a symbol of collective progress, a testament to the power of bipartisan cooperation in shaping a brighter future for all. Let us stand united in our commitment to continue building on this success and uphold the interest of the hardworking families to make our nation great. Thank you.
Thank you, T.J. LaPera, the Political Director of IBEW Local 98. My name is former City Controller Alan Budkovitz, and I just want to make 2 points about this important legislation. Everybody has alluded to the dramatic savings on insulin. The median income for people over 65 is below $50,000. The older they get, the lower it goes. About a quarter of people over 65 have half of their income dependent on Social Security and are below the poverty line. So the idea of paying $35 a month for insulin instead of $400 a month is not a symbolic thing. It's a real thing, because you're talking about something like 10 or 12% of their annual income versus 1 or 2% of the annual income. The other point I want to make is about the fact that there are huge neglected infrastructure needs. We have seen a number of water mains collapse in the city. We got problems with leaky gas mains. These are life and death problems. You got to remember, the last major federal government investment in fixing up the structure was in the 1950s. It's like 60 years ago. So instead of just talking about these ideas kind of like, gee, isn't that terrible? Didn't we have bad weather this week? We have a president, and we've had a Democratic presence in Congress that is actually fixing problems. And what we've seen is that supposedly what is impossible has been occurring economically. They said in order to bring inflation down from 8 or 9% to 2 or 3%, we would have to have a major recession and have like 7.5% unemployment for 3 years. Miraculously, we've got inflation down to a tolerable amount, and people are adding jobs. So this happens to be a time when the needs and the solution actually merge perfectly. We need work. We need to fix up and retrofit our schools. 40% of the kids in Philadelphia schools have asthma because they're in sick buildings. There's a lot of, this is not make work. This is really needed work. And the choice is so clear next year between a problem-solving president who knows what he's doing and knows how to get things done, and a circus performer who thinks it's all about him. So I'm happy to join with the other officials and leaders of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party to stand behind and enthusiastically support the re-election of President Biden and the election of a 2-House Democratic Congress in 2024, and a Democratic majority in the Pennsylvania legislature.
Thank you so much for coming out. Again, as we remember this anniversary, just remember all the progress that is made and what is going to happen in the future. Thank you.